Okay, so there's a new video by Mindful Small YouTube channel on how information overload destroys your brain. So let's watch this and I'll give my commentary on it.
When was the last time you simply turned everything off, left all the distractions behind, and stayed alone with your own self? Information in the modern world is absolutely everywhere. You've got thousands of TikTok videos available to you, millions of YouTube videos, countless number of Instagram posts, millions of books you can read online, and countless number of podcasts to listen to.
So obviously, you would never be able to watch every podcast, every Netflix show, every tweets you will never be able to look at, every Reddit post, every Instagram post. It's so much information. It's too much information. Like our ancestors couldn't have even dreamed of having this much information, this many sources of just entertainment. Okay, you can't discern it all. It's too much. And the more you try to literally find different things, different ideas, different videos, different writings, you'll eventually drive yourself insane. Okay, humans are not supposed to have this much information, obviously. And even if we could watch every last YouTube video, every last Reddit post, every last tweet, our brain wouldn't even be able to absorb all of that information unless you're like some sort of savant. Like if you guys have seen the movie Rain Man, where it's this autistic savant that just sees something and immediately absorbs that information and can remember it for the rest of your life, his life. Unless you're like that, there's really no point in watching hundreds of different YouTube videos per day. Um, Thousands of different TikToks per day. There's no point because you can't remember it. So you have to limit yourself. You have to watch 10, 20, 30 YouTube videos a day. After that, it will just be pointless. Find your limits. Okay, find the maximum amount of content you can consume before you start to have negative effects. Limit yourself to maybe 50 TikToks a day if you use TikTok. I don't use TikTok or YouTube Shorts, whatever. Limit yourself because the more time you spend on these websites, which are specifically designed to keep you on these websites for as long as humanly possible. Now we have Gen Z spending 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours per day on social media, on Reddit, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, all these different distractions. You really have to find the cutoff.
Tons of entertaining movies and TV shows to watch. It's almost impossible to escape. We have been trapped in this constant cycle of information. We consume it almost all the time. Watching something while eating, listening to something while studying, cleaning the house and simultaneously listening to a podcast, even going to the restroom taking our phone to stimulate us even there. We're all addicts scared to miss out on something. This information flow never stops. Our brain
Yeah, it never stops. Your brain, really, when you think about it, your brain can never rest. The only time it's gotten to the point where people literally are missing out on sleep because they spend all day, all night on the computer or their phone up into the night, 2, 3 a.m., scrolling through TikTok, trying to get the next tidbit of information, and their mind is never at ease, at least during waking hours. This is not sustainable. We're wondering why time is moving faster. Like, why is this year going by so fast? Like, it's almost about to be 2024. And think about how fast this year has went by. And the reason why your perception is so skewed when it comes to time is because your days have become a blur. Your hours feels like minutes because of all the content you are consuming. And people just need to really downsize on this. Yes, it's kind of cool how you can look at any YouTube video at any point in time. You can just have nonstop information, but at the same time, it's very bad for your overall life coherence. The coherence within your life is being shifted when you watch all these videos, all this content.
Get so overloaded that we cannot think clearly nor focus on any usually perceived as boring but necessary task. I struggled to begin writing this video because my thoughts were just all over the place. When we constantly bombard ourselves with new information, even if it's very educational, we take the time from our brain to sort everything into the right places, and as a result, lose our creativity. It is much harder to come up with new ideas when your mind doesn't have any time to think.
So, yeah, that's obvious. Have you guys ever been in the shower and you just have the most deep thoughts, like mind blowing thoughts? Why is that? Because in the shower, there's no phone, there's no music, there's nothing but the sound of water hitting the ground and nothing else. Okay, so you can just get, it feels like you could just get lost in your own thoughts when you're in the shower. But when you step out the shower, you go on your phone, check your phone, check your social media posts, you maybe turn on a YouTube video, listen to a podcast, and then all that just completely evaporates. Okay, so this stuff is destroying creativity. Sometimes you just have to go a day, 2 days, maybe even a whole week without any social media. And social media is especially, it's one thing to use YouTube and listen to podcasts, but social media is a completely different animal. Okay? When you're on social media, you're constantly looking at everybody else's life, comparing yourself to everybody else. And this really robs from you the possibilities within your own life, your own self-respect. So social media is a huge no-no. If you're using social media, get off it right now. Okay, there's no redeem unless you own a business and you use social media to promote your business. There's really no point in using social media. It's a complete waste of time. It's terrible for your mental health, especially if you're a teenager or a young adult. You're constantly comparing yourself to millionaires that are probably doing better than you. So get off it. There's no point.
Creativity is something I talk about a lot, as I truly believe it is essential for the future progress of our society. It is not that we're losing our capacity to be creative, instead, we're just not giving ourselves any time to be creative. We leave no time to our minds so it can marinate all the subconscious ideas that are being formed. We are the most creative when we're not receiving any new information, when we are at peace, simply wondering about the world. It is a popular fact that great ideas usually come to people in the shower, where they're not distracted. Funny how perhaps a shower you once took will turn out to be one of the most productive times in your life. An idea may arise that will change everything. Creativity is at its peak when we fall deep into our minds. That's why Da Vinci used to stare at his artworks for hours, not doing anything. When you're doing nothing, your brain is actually working really hard to sort all the information you've recently received into the right places. Most of us know that consuming incredibly large amounts of information has a negative effect on our lives, but we still don't stop.
Now, that's ironic because when we're in school, they tell us the more information we learn, the smarter we'll get. Like when you think about it, when you're in grade school, when you're in college, they give you a bunch of information. They make you read these huge, massive textbooks. They make you take like 100 question quiz every 2 weeks or so. And then by the time the class is finished, you pass the class, you just forget everything. Just forget everything. How much stuff do you really remember from high school? How much stuff do you remember from ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, from let alone middle school? Okay, they're not designing the school system to educate you. They are not designing the school system to make it so you can actually learn and retain important information. They instead spoon feed you thousands of different tidbits of information, expect you to remember that information, and then you take the quiz, you try to cram the information down to remember it for the quiz. You take the quiz, you forget the information, then you move on to the next stupid, useless subject. And then repeat the process until eventually you graduate. That is how it works. That is not how learning works. That is not how the human mind works. Okay, you have to learn. You have to take the time to learn. You have to spend entire days on one single tidbit. Not tidbit, but one single subject. And you slowly have to work it through the mind. You cannot spoon feed people tiny little details. Like when you think about it, when they give you a quiz or a test, they say, what year did X, Y, and Z happen? Who was X, Y, and Z? Blah 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 blah. Does the year shouldn't matter when something happened? It's what happened. And they don't ask you questions on that because then you'd actually remember. Okay, they ask you about years, dates. When you're in math class, they ask you this random math question. And then you try to remember how to do each step. And then once the class is over, you don't need that anymore. Why would you need to learn advanced algebra? Like they don't even teach you how to apply that to real life. Okay, they say, oh, you need to learn advanced algebra, you need to learn advanced blah 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 blah, this, that, this, and they don't tell you what you'd use it in real life for. Why? Again, the goal is not to teach, the goal is not to educate, the goal is to make it so you have to sit down, you have to shut up, pay attention, regurgitate information, cram that information into your noggin. You're not thinking about the long-term memorization of this information. You're thinking about the short term. You just have to keep that information inside your head for a long enough period of time so that you can pass the quiz. And then once you pass the quiz, you just forget it. And you've been trained all throughout your life to think like this, to do this. So when you graduate and you go into the real world as an adult, you can't remember things long term. Okay, you might watch thousands of hours of content, okay, but you don't remember any of that. So what's the point of going on YouTube? What's the point of going on Snapchat? What is the point? There is no point, okay, because you have to reverse all the conditioning that they've done to your learning process. You have to reverse that first. Get off social media. At least limit yourself. 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos, 5 videos, however many videos a day you think is healthy for you. If you keep going down this pattern of watching more and more videos, and the videos have to be more and more exciting, and it has to be more and more drama within the videos, like YouTube feeds you drama videos, they feed you these videos where it's like 100 random facts that happened, and then you watch the video, you don't remember any of them. You might remember 1 or 2, but for the most part, you won't remember. Okay, there's no point. Like when I go on YouTube, I watch hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long documentaries. That is all I watch. Okay, I don't watch these YouTube shorts. I don't do that because it's pointless. It's toxic. Utterly toxic for your brain.
People worldwide use their screens for an average of 6 hours and 58 minutes daily, and the daily screen time has increased by nearly 50 minutes per day since 2013. The average American consumes nearly 34 gigabytes of information a day. Information overload isn't something fully new to our society. Beginning with the invention of the printing press in the 15th century, scholars and scientists have predicted that each new technological advance that made information more widely available would produce an overwhelming flood that would be impossible to manage. Imagine if people in the 15th century began to struggle with the amount of information available to them. How much we struggle now when we can read almost any book in history online at any time we want. Constantly bombarded by far more information than we can ever truly process, decreases our concentration, acts negatively on our ability to remember things, and eventually takes away our ability to be creative and make good decisions.
Now, it's not, I disagree with him. He's trying to paint it like, oh, we have all this information, so that's a bad thing. No, it can be a good thing. It absolutely, it can have more good benefits than bad. It just depends on the individual and how they use that information.
In neuroscience, there's something known as working memory. It is a cognitive system with a limited capacity that can hold information temporarily. It is important for reasoning and the guidance of decision making, and ultimately our behavior. Our working memory can hold no more than 10 items at a time. By largely exceeding the limit of what our working memory can store, we erode the efficiency and quality of our cognitive function. If you continue to overload your brain by making it store too much information in working memory, the brain loses its processing power. Further, by overloading the circuits non-stop, we lose the important periods of inactivity, as we discussed earlier, times of doing nothing.
Now think about how different people acted before the internet. Okay, let's pretend for a second there was no internet at all. Okay, this year no internet. Imagine how glad people would be to have things like conversation, small talk. People were actually happy for the most part to go to work without the internet because really, what else could you do? Okay, there was nothing else to do but work. But now that we have the internet, we have video games, we have all these luxuries, people are less inclined to go to work, to be happy, to do things like raising families. People are like, why would I raise a family when I could just go on YouTube? I have all these luxuries. If I have a family or a baby, then I have to take care of them. I couldn't watch YouTube. I couldn't do all this stuff. All this it's really become baggage in a way. Like they're not luxuries. They're barriers to our psychological well-being. And that's just the honest truth. Okay, if it were up to me, I would say, okay, you can have internet every single day except this day. I'd make Sunday a day where all social media companies have to shut down. They have to shut down for one day, 24 hours, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I do. I'd shut down all social media companies every Sunday or every Saturday, something like that, and make people interact with each other. Okay, that's why I do. Obviously, that has downsides at the same time because it really depends on how you organize it. Obviously, not all social media companies, but social media companies like Instagram, Snapchat, yeah, I'd say shut them down for a day. Let people see the real world. Okay, it's toxic to your health. It's toxic to your well-being. So you might as well just get rid of it for at least for a day. At least for a day.
Receiving no information that facilitate optimum function of our brain. When we keep the brain too busy, it doesn't get the rest it needs. We pay by suffering a deficit in both short and long-term memory, as communication between the two is disrupted by overactivity. By choosing to constantly swim in seas of new information, you sacrifice your peace and creativity. Not only do you struggle to focus on a single problem, truly concentrate, but you also harm your memory and working capacity. You don't always need to indulge in new information. It will not make you more productive, and it will not increase your levels of.
So I like what he said here. He said, you don't need to indulge in new information. Yes, that's very true. A lot of people are seeking to find new information, even though they haven't fully processed the information they've already learned. Like, you're just like, oh, let's say you watch a TikTok video. You go to the next TikTok video. I need to see another TikTok. Have you fully processed the video you already watched? Have you fully you don't even comprehend what you're watching. You don't even give your brain enough time to absorb, to criticize what you are watching, to think about what you are watching. And this can obviously be used for things like propaganda, but I'm not going to go into it on this video. But yeah, you're not absorbing the information. You're not fully thinking. Like, you only start to think about things when you walk away from the computer, when you walk away from your cell phone. That's when you have time to think about things. That's when you have time to absorb the reality, to compare the information with your surrounding world that you interact with on a daily basis.
Happiness. FOMO, or fear of missing out, largely controls the way we live, and it also influences us to try to indulge in as much information as possible. Yes, the human brain can process 11 million bits of information per second, but our conscious minds can only take in about 40 bits. The processing of all the information you're constantly receiving by your subconscious can make you mentally.
I'm not sure how they calculated that the human brain can take only 40 bits of information. 40 bits sounds small. It sounds extremely small. 40 bits? That's nothing.
Second, but our conscious minds can only take in about 40 bits. The processing of all the information you're constantly receiving by your subconscious can make you mentally exhausted. Information overload has been suspected to cause sleep disorder, anxiety, and reduced focus.
Now, obviously, that's true. Okay, if you're just spending all day on the social media platforms, then of course you'll have more anxiety, more depression, more of this. You know, my life really didn't start until I started cutting back on my social media use. I use Instagram, I use Snapchat, I deleted my Facebook. But yeah, your life really doesn't, you're not able to see your life objectively while using these social media platforms on a day-to-day basis, because you're constantly comparing, constantly beating yourself down for not living up to the expectations of the social media platform. I don't even check how many likes I get. I don't check how many shares I get. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, why should I? It's a freaking social media platform. The algorithms they use to promote profiles and promote videos and pictures are far outside of my control. So why should I care? I just post stuff, walk away, and don't even think about it. Okay, I'm just doing what what I want to do. I'm not doing what the social media platform does. I'm not trying to emulate the behavior of the influencers you see on these social media platforms. Why should I do that? There's no point. Because freaking, what's his name? Dan Bazarian has a mega mansion and a yacht doesn't mean that I have to have those things in order to be happy. Okay, sure, it gets a bunch of likes, but is he really happy? No.
When your brain can't properly process all the information you feed into it, it releases cortisol and enters a state of stress. I personally love multitasking, but while making this video, all my hopes of it being a productive process were completely destroyed. We all would love to be more productive. I mean, who doesn't want it to be able to do more in less time? That's when we turn to multitasking in hopes of being more productive, but multitasking is not at all. In most cases, it is just a blind illusion of productivity. The best thing to do is minimize interruptions and work on one complex task at a time. Here I'm talking specifically about complex tasks that require a lot of your attention, not washing dishes or cleaning the house. Of course, in these situations, you can easily multitask. Earl Miller, a neuroscientist at MIT, states that our brains are not wired to multitask well. When people think they're multitasking, they're actually just switching from one task to another very rapidly. And every time they do so, there's a cognitive cost in doing so.
Now, I'm not sure what multitasking actually means. Does it mean like somebody has like five monitors and they're just doing different tasks? I don't talking like I get distracted when somebody's trying to hold a conversation while I'm doing something important. And these people are like, yeah, I can multitask, and then they mess up on their job or whatever they're doing, and then they're like, oh man, it's because you're multitasking. You can only do one thing at a time. Max, two things. I don't understand how anybody would be able to do three things, four things, five things. It's just not feasible unless you're like, again, a savant or something. Even savants, they have to pay attention to one thing at a time. Okay, you can't do like five, a savant can't do like five different things. Okay, you can only do one calculation at a time. Like the savant that is super good at math, he can calculate all this. He can only do one calculation at a time. He can't do 10, he can't do 20. So obviously the human brain has its limitations. And when you try to act like you don't have any limitations, that's not good for you. That's not good for your health. That's not good for your life because you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself, trying to pretend you can do something you clearly cannot do. Okay, the human brain, one task at a time. One task at a freaking time. If you try to do two, three, four, five, six, you're just wasting your time.
You believe you're getting a lot done, but it actually makes you less efficient. Multitasking is information overload. It increases stress and causes mental exhaustion by overstimulating your brain. Trying to focus on one complex task and simultaneously being distracted by outside circumstances can reduce your effective IQ, or in other words, decrease the quality of your work. Shifting your attention and keeping it on a single task requires the same brain nutrients. Fast shifts in our attention that happen when we multitask causes the brain to burn through this fuel fast, so that we feel mentally exhausted after only a short period of time. If you can defeat FOMO and separate yourself from the constant flow of new information most people are stuck in, you will gain a giant advantage against anyone else.
Yeah, FOMO is a trap. FOMO is a way to make you constantly compare yourself to other people, even when you don't have to. Okay, if you're glued to your phone, looking at Instagram posts from people from thousands of miles away that probably got all their money from like being a trust fund baby. How's that healthy for you? Why not compare yourself to somebody who's like you? Okay, unless you're just following regular normal people, I can't see how social media, like you have these people on Instagram just partying every day, just living the time of their life, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per day, driving $1 million cars. Is that healthy for you? Just so some guy can get one extra follower. Okay, if everybody should unfollow the people that do that. Okay, unless everybody should be like Keanu Reeves. Okay, me personally, I'm not really like a fanboy of Keanu Reeves, but at least he doesn't try to make an Instagram account and try to live like a ultra freaking super mega famous rock star. No, no, no. Be like Keanu Reeves. Don't try to be something you're not, because when you don't live up to those expectations, you end up being depressed. You end up feeling like a failure. That's how it ends up. Okay? So be normal. Just to be your everyday self. Don't try to live up to FOMO. Oh, I gotta do this because this guy did this. No, no. And think about it. People are literally spending hours and hours and hours of their life on Instagram, on Snapchat. And for the reasons I just said, they're bad for you. Very bad. Okay, that's why the only time I use my phone is when it rings. The only time I use my phone is when I get a notification. I don't go out of my way to use all these different apps made to distract you, no, because it's bad. It just makes me feel worse in the end by checking all these different apps, all these different freaking things. And no, no. Oh, hey, oh, did you see that picture of this celebrity doing this? Why don't you do this? Let's do that. I'm just completely. Oh man, it's so absurd. A part of me wishes that I was born in an era before social media, but at the same time, I'm enjoying all this good information. I'm enjoying all this good resources of knowledge. So you really got to learn to navigate around the distractions, around the FOMO. And then it will be infinitely, all this information will be infinitely more resourceful than if you otherwise wouldn't have.
You need to be able to stay alone with your own thoughts and properly focus on the task in front of you. It was a pleasure to create this video, and I
So yeah, this is mindful. I've never watched his videos before. I've never watched his channel. He brought up some very good points, things that need to be said. It's not every day when the YouTube algorithm recommends a video to me like this, but it's much appreciated, especially considering the fact that it's about to be New Year's, it's about to be 2024, and it's been 4 years since 2020. Okay, 4 years. Think about that, 4 years. And people are like, wow, it's going by so fast. Yes, it's going by fast because you're not slowing down, putting the phone down, getting off the internet. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a guru. Hey, I have a bunch of stuff I need to improve on too. But being aware is the first step. Being aware of how to manage in a world of distractions, that is the first step. You don't have to be perfect the first time you try to cut back on social media, on YouTube, whatever it is that you think you could, like, think about it. 6 hours. He said, things Zoomers or whatever, the average American spends 6 hours or more a day on Netflix, on YouTube, on Reddit, on Instagram, on Facebook, Snapchat, all these different things. And they could be spending their time on things they've been wanting to do, but they haven't had the time, or supposedly haven't had the time, because they are too distracted. Okay? Oh, where's all this time going? Time's going so fast. And then they're spending 6 hours a day just watching videos, just distracting themselves. And people who do this are trying to run from something. They're trying to run from problems, distract themselves from problems. That's what people who do this usually think. Maybe they're behind on bills. Maybe there's situations in their life they're not okay with. That is what they're running from. Maybe that's it. Okay, maybe it's not because of, oh, they just can't help themselves. They gotta watch. No, it's it's escapism. That's what all of this stuff leads to, escapism. Okay, people are trying to escape one way or another. And what does that say about our society? What does that say about the world we're currently living in?